Good morning, Dr. Hickey, Mr. Patterson, Mr. Gallagher, faculty, and fellow students. Failure is one of the most important experiences in life. It dictates how we learn and grow, and how we become overall better individuals. For many people, failure is taken for granted, misunderstood, or even just brushed off. For me, failure has influenced my life dramatically, guiding me through tough times and helping me learn and grow from my experiences. I believe that failure has been my helping hand because many of my failures are what led to my successes. We have all experienced failure because failure is inescapable. Whether it's on a test or an essay or just in our everyday lives, failure has or will most likely come to you. Many of us think failure is a bad thing, but that's not how I see it. I believe that instances of failure in our lives can be seen as opportunities, and when we look at it this way, we are focused on the positive outcome. Embracing failure helps us develop our skills and improve our abilities. And for me, this understanding started in kindergarten. I was 5 when I had my first ice hockey practice. I've been going to Flyers games since I was 2 weeks old, so I was very excited to begin. And I had been practicing on my carpet for weeks before this with my family. But when it was time to step up on the ice, I froze. It was just like I hit a brick wall. There was suddenly an overwhelming feeling of nervousness and regret boiling up inside me. I began to cry, both scared and embarrassed by my inability to take that step forward onto the ice. My nerves had gotten the better of me, and I just wanted to give up. And I was about to, when a kid who had seen me crying came over and helped me out onto the ice. After this child's kind encouragement pulled me on the ice, I stopped thinking about how I'd been crying 15 minutes earlier. All I could think about was the feeling I got every time I took a stride. In this moment, in the midst of this failure and kindness, my dream to play hockey became a reality. Obviously, I wasn't very good at first, but each week in all of my kindergarten classes, all I could think about were my skate lessons that night. I fell and tripped again and again, but that didn't stop me from trying to get better. I kept practicing on and off the ice, and I began to see results. When I finally got my first goal that season, it was one of the best feelings in my life at that point. Even though I failed to even step on the ice when I first began, I didn't back away from the challenge. It felt like a failure when I began, but it was one that I embraced as a chance to become a stronger, braver player. And this experience ultimately led to hockey being my favorite sport as of today. But every failure isn't always a direct step to success. Sometimes small failures help you learn what is right or wrong for you, and they eventually guide you to the right path. A few missteps through sports and activities led to me having trouble trying new things for a while, but at Upland, that all changed. Here, I had to play lacrosse, and the thought of that made me sick to my stomach. I was dreading it all summer and was unsure if I would be able to get past my previous failures in sports. I kept thinking to myself, what if these mishaps happened again? But I tried my best to just loosen my nerves and try to have fun. That season, I had a ton of fun. Although I didn't score a single goal the whole season, I still had a great time. I learned the basics of lacrosse, which helped me to make varsity the next year. I began to shift my view of lacrosse from a burden to an opportunity to try something new and have fun at the same time. It even led to lacrosse being one of my favorite sports. I look forward to lacrosse practice each day and love the memories in the vans and on the field. Even though you get whacked a lot, the feeling of a nice move, nice pass, or just being out there with friends can't be beat. As a kid, I had learned that failing didn't mean the end of something, but my first rejection from a team felt like that. It wasn't just something I couldn't do, it was something I worked hard for and failed to achieve. At 9 years old, my first rejection came from the Pennsylvania Brick team. This was a team where all the best kids in the Atlantic District were put out onto the ice to try out. There were 2 tryouts for this team. First, an open tryout that anyone could go to. Then, a private tryout where you had to be invited back. The second one would ultimately decide whether or not you made the team. In the first tryout, I played some of the best hockey of my life. When I got the email inviting me back to the second tryout, I was bursting with excitement. All I could think about the next few weeks was the tryout and how excited and nervous I was for it. I would be playing with the best players in the Atlantic District, and I'd be lying if I said that didn't scare me. But I put that fear behind me and worked as hard as I could. I did very well in the tryout, and I felt confident that I would make the team, but it turned out to not be enough. The day I got the email was one of the most heartbreaking days of my life. I didn't want to talk to anyone, and I was embarrassed when the kids on my club team asked me whether I made the team or not. I was still in shock and denial. I didn't want to believe that I had failed, but as the months moved on, I realized that this wasn't a failure. It was just a steep hill on my path to success. In 7th grade, I had my chance to make a new team. The tryouts would be even more challenging, with new talent and more kids. But I had been working hard for months, just waiting for this moment. I made it past the first tryout again, but this time, I went into the second tryout with even more determination. When I stepped onto the ice for the second round, I promised myself I wouldn't be rejected again. I went out there, did my absolute best, and was thrilled by how much better I did in this tryout compared to the last. It was 2 weeks later, as I was driving home from practice, that my mom called with the news. The Flyers Quebec team, the highest team I could make, wanted me to play with them. I was in utter shock. As confident as I had felt, as hard as I had worked, I'd still been nervous. But this success was one of the best I have ever had, and it wouldn't have been possible without failure. This made the rejection and sadness I had faced from the last tryout worth it, because I had grown from the failure I had faced before and embraced it instead of never trying out for a district team again. Starting anything new comes with a learning curve, some steeper than others, and failures along the way are to be expected. After I failed to make the Pennsylvania Brick team, I played with increased pace, determination, and aggression because I had lacked this in the original tryout. Without that initial failure, I would not have had the drive to succeed, which led to one of the best experiences of my life as I traveled to a tournament in Quebec with my team to compete in a historical arena. Throughout my life, there have been many small failures, some that helped me to grow and some that just taught me what was worth pursuing. But golf taught me the most about patience and dedication. I started playing golf at around 10 years old, although I didn't start playing actual rounds until last summer. Anyone here who plays golf will most likely tell you it's the hardest sport in the world. At first, I thought this was one of the worst hot takes I've ever heard in my life. Then I actually started playing and immediately wanted to quit. Every time I hit a bad shot, I would get mad at myself and start talking about how bad the sport was and that there was no reason for people to play it and a bunch of other things. I was frustrated, baffled, and annoyed. But somehow, it was still one of the most fulfilling and exciting sports I had ever played, and still is. The feeling you get when you hit a good shot is nearly unmatchable. Once I had felt it, I wanted to succeed, and so I began to practice. I would frequently shank the ball, sending it flying 80 yards right of my intended target, and each time I left the range, I would be mad at myself, but I kept going back. Eventually, I started to see results. I began to hit the ball straighter and began to focus less on how far the ball went and more on where the ball went. I continued to go to the range more often and began to play real rounds with my friends. At first, I didn't do very well when playing on a real course, but as I played more and more, the progress I made became clear. I started to shoot lower rounds, and the feeling of quick development swelled up inside me. I began to take it more seriously and began enforcing the real rules on myself to see genuine scores. One of the most interesting things in golf is that you will never have the same exact shot as you did before, whether you play 5 rounds or 1,000,000 rounds. The experience will always be different because there are so many variables, constantly shifting. Life is the same way. I like that about golf because each shot gives you a chance to grow, and some shots will fail, but you will learn from them, and then your next shot will be better. Each failure, each setback has paved the way for greater achievements. While at first I saw my failures as insurmountable, I now see them as stepping stones, and every experience with it has shaped me into the person I am today. Failures happen daily, whether it's a poor test grade, getting cut from a tryout, an errant golf shot, or just a bad pass. These experiences happen to us, and how we grow from them defines us. Failure builds resiliency and discipline, and we must embrace these opportunities to learn, persevere, and reach excellence. As the famous former Prime Minister of the UK, Winston Churchill, once said, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." So have courage, don't give up, and face the failures before you with an open mind. Thank you.